All right, welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to try to untangle the chaotic web of classic Indian horror storylines and distill them down into one clear, terrifying narrative. Look, if you've ever tried to follow the twisting plots of these supernatural tales, you already know they can feel like a massive labyrinth of overlapping scares. It gets confusing, right? But today, we're going to break down the actual mechanics of the source material, this haunting saga known as Atmaka Kale, and reveal the hidden structure underneath the whole shebang. So let's jump right in.
This isn't a wedding, it's a mourning. She will return with destruction. Wow. Okay, this chilling warning delivered by the crazed watchman early on in the source material immediately sets the stakes for our whole investigation. We aren't just dealing with random, meaningless jump scares here, folks. We are looking at an orchestrated event, a very deliberate, vengeful haunting.
So think about this for a second. What happens when the ultimate betrayal turns into a deadly curse? As we navigate through the three distinct storylines present in our source today, you'll actually see that betrayal is the dark foundational thread connecting every single supernatural event we're about to explore. Keep that theme of broken trust in the back of your mind as we go.
Okay, let's dive into Section 1, the Severed Highway Ghost, a deceptive encounter.
The opening scene here is incredibly fast and just brutal. Picture this. A man offers a ride to a distressed bride out on a lonely highway. It's your classic Good Samaritan setup, right? But suddenly, she just starts screaming in absolute terror, begging for her life as if he's the one attacking her. And before the guy can even process the confusion, she vanishes completely from the car, leaving behind only a bloody, severed hand. A nice, helpful gesture rapidly devolves into a totally bizarre mystery.
The driver's immediate realization here is actually our first major clue. He says, if she were a real spirit, she would take a life, not just leave a hand. He hits the nail on the head. The entities in this universe aren't just mindless slashers. They use psychological games, pure shock value, and misdirection to instill terror and confusion long before they actually strike.
Moving smoothly right along to Section 2, the Cursed Wedding, Betrayal at the Altar.
Look at how brilliantly the supernatural curse slowly tightens its grip on the bride, Sunita, and the entire wedding party. It starts off really small and intimate. The groom's name just inexplicably erases from the bride's fresh mehndi. A friend's watch randomly stops working. But then the escalation continues as the groom's sherwani suddenly catches fire, right before a total power outage plunges this joyous celebration into complete and utter darkness. I mean, it is literally a masterclass in building tension through escalating omens.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core horror trope driving this entire segment, the vengeful bride. This is a spirit bound to the mortal realm by an ultimate betrayal, who turns joyous wedding ceremonies into deadly traps for others. Those escalating omens we just talked about, they weren't random bad luck, they were a highly targeted supernatural attack.
The motivation becomes crystal clear with this really terrifying revelation from the mother-in-law: marriage means death. The ghost haunting them is actually a former bride seeking revenge, all because her own groom never showed up to the altar, which led to her tragic suicide. Her broken trust has basically mutated into a curse against all marriages, totally infecting the current timeline.
All right, let's look at Section 3, the Phantom Roommate, a thriller. So, we have Muskan, and she's living entirely alone in this large house. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Sneha arrives late at night, claiming she saw an ad for a roommate, an ad that Muskan swears she never actually placed. Once she gets inside, Sneha aggressively covets Muskan's bedroom, and almost immediately, bizarre things start escalating. We're talking flickering TVs, weird electrical failures, and disembodied voices echoing from the kitchen. It is a masterfully creepy, boundary-pushing dynamic between these two.
This setup creates a terrifying juxtaposition. Muskan is growing increasingly paranoid, firmly believing that Sneha brought some evil entity into her safe home. Meanwhile, on the flip side, Sneha is experiencing pure, sheer terror. She's being physically attacked by kitchen spirits and fully believes Muskan is the ghost. The haunting just perfectly orchestrates their betrayal of one another, turning them into bitter, terrified enemies trapped in the exact same space. Which puts us, the audience, right in the thick of their paranoia. I mean, who is the real spirit here? Is it the uninvited stranger, Sneha, or is it the defensive homeowner, Muskan? The brilliant part of this source material is that it manipulates the perspective so well, you doubt both of them right up until the violent climax.
Let's move to and see how this builds in Section 4, the abandoned house twist, the final reveal.
Things go completely off the rails in the chaotic final moments.
A bloodied, terrified Sneha manages to escape the house, and she frantically begs a passerby to go inside and save Muskan. But instead of getting help, the dark historical truth of the house is finally exposed by the very locals she is pleading with.
The passerby reveals that this house has actually been locked and completely abandoned for 15 years. Just let that sink in for a second. There was no homeowner. There was no roommate ad. The entire scenario was a meticulously fabricated supernatural trap. Both girls were victims, playing a role in a massive haunted illusion.
Then, when the police officer arrives on the scene, he delivers this chilling realization. He says, "Only spirits live here. Last year, 2 girls fell from the top and died." This isn't just a one-time weird event, guys. It is an endless, repeating cycle designed to lure in, isolate, and trap vulnerable victims by playing on their basic need for companionship.
So let's tie it all together. These 3 seemingly chaotic storylines are actually brilliantly bound together by one overarching theme: betrayal. The highway ghost relies on the false victim trope, totally tricking a helpful stranger. The cursed wedding stems from an abandoned bride punishing innocent people. And the phantom roommate weaponizes broken trust and paranoia, making the victims turn on each other before springing the final, deadly trap.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought. In a game of spirits where your trust, your genuine desire to help, and your basic human need for connection are completely weaponized against you, who can you really believe? Take that question with you. Understanding the structured mechanics of these narratives completely changes how we consume them, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I absolutely cannot wait to decode more mysteries with you next time.